So welcome to the July 1st meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
I'll make a motion to open the July 1st meeting.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. First item on the agenda, I believe there's is 554 Hill Street. The applicant has requested a 6-month extension due to Health Department, is that right, Paul?
Due specifically to the Health Department, and so your file contains a proposed resolution granting the extension to and including the public hearing in January of 2020. I provided just a brief comment on the history of this matter since it's now been pending since 2013. Noted that the sketch plan was approved in December of 18, and that thereafter the applicant has been exercising due diligence to obtain the approval of the Health Department. And unlike other applications, you sometimes approve this application is going to receive the approval of the Health Department before you approve it, as opposed to an approval subject to the later certification by the Health Department. So an affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the extension.
Make the motion to vote on the
To approve.
to approve the resolution for 554 Hill Street to grant an extension until the regular public meeting in January 2020. Does anybody second my motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, you'll mark Mr. Epley and myself and yourself as aye, and the rest is absent?
Absent, yeah.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for 205 Windmill Lane. Good evening.
Good evening, Robert Fischetti, Ferdinand Fischetti, for the applicant. I'll just give a quick.
Yeah, just give us a brief outline of what the application's for, please.
So it's a site plan application for the property's a 24,135 square foot property in the office district at a 205 Windmill Lane. It has a CO, it's a 2-story building, has a CO for 3 offices. We are here requesting a conversion to 4 offices. That conversion doesn't actually require any work, interior or exterior. There are several doors and doorways on the outside and interior of the building, so it's basically status quo, but the use would be for 4 offices instead of the 3. We've addressed everything in the preliminary memo, so that's all.
Has the applicant answered all the issues with regard to the landscaping and anything else that we had concerns about?
I believe so. What's the status of the health department and the sanitary system?
Oh, I submitted at the work session, and then a day or two later to the building department, the septic, certification of the septic system.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything back from the building department yet, but, I mean, based on what they found, we expect to do a new system. It was just a one-ring system.
Okay. I think that might be the last item.
So we expect that as a condition, of course.
Pam, Zach, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I mean, the septic system's underneath the driveway, right? The existing driveway, so they're going to have to replace that when they do the system?
Yes. I believe it is. Doesn't show on here, but I believe that's the case.
Okay. And then just the neighbors behind are all good with the...
I didn't hear anything. I got one call from someone who was very quick. She didn't identify which property she was from. She asked what the application was about, and I said converting 3 offices to 4 with no work, and she said, "Oh, never mind."
Okay, cool. And there's,
But otherwise, no
yeah.
word.
And there's a fence back there too, isn't there?
Yes, there's
That
a new
lot?
fence put up actually conveniently by the neighbor to the rear.
Okay.
So between that and the slope, it's pretty well, the headlights and things like that are pretty well hidden.
Okay.
Is there anybody in the public who would like to comment on the application? In that case, I think it's appropriate to make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And now, Roy, a motion to adjourn the application for all purposes.
Make a motion to adjourn the application at the request of the applicant for all purposes until
Next regular meeting. Next regular
the
meeting.
next regular meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
The next application for public hearing is Fernandez and 41 Barnhart LLC, which is a lot line modification.
Good evening, Mary Jane Asado, Brooke Flanagan Asado, 21 South Main Street for the applicant. I believe that at the work session or at the last report, there were a few questions regarding the issue of the generator being currently located on 65 Captain's Neck Lane, but we indicated that it would be transferred to after the transfer, the enlarged, my client supervised the subject generator services the house at 41 Barnhart Street, and as a result, it does not need to be relocated. You had asked whether it was going to be a relocation, and they said, no, it's not. You also, in the consultant's memo, there was why, what was the reason for the configuration, and I believe that Gil submitted a response to you. It's to have more of a usable rear yard and, on the property. I don't know if you want, let me put this out here so you can see it. This is the area to be transferred from parcel 1 to parcel 2. It will make parcel 2 less non-conforming. It's not going to bring it up to conformity, but it will certainly be less non-conforming considering this is the lot as it is. It will give it a usable rear yard. Actually, this property has sufficient area. It's still going to be oversized. It's not going to diminish, or create new non-conformities here. Under the circumstances, we feel that, frankly, it's good planning. You can't really stick anything back. This area is much more beneficial to this lot than it is to the existing lot, and it doesn't detract from the village. It actually creates a lot that's more, it's certainly in size for the property in the neighborhood.
I wasn't at the work session, so forgive me if this has already been addressed, but does changing the lot line require, put the lot line in any kind of obstruction to the first lot in terms of...
No, it's not going to create any instances where you have to get a variance, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and there was a letter about the gross floor area
Yes.
as well.
In other words, doing this does not create non-conformities or variances
To the first lot.
to the first lot.
Yeah.
This has been done where essentially it makes this lot less non-conforming, but doesn't create new non-conformities on the larger lot.
Yeah, what were those gross floor areas numbers again? I know it was like 12 and 7, and I know there's a memo about it somewhere. I just wanted to...
Hold on a second. I know that they were spelled out here.
Yeah, it was like the allowable was like 12,000, and they were only going to...
Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
It was actually in your, under the village code, the maximum coverage is calculated as 14% of the lot plus 1,500 square feet, but in no case shall the lot coverage exceed 30,000. And that's actually in Nelson Pope and Voorhees' memo to you. Based on the calculation following the lot line modification, Lot 1 would have a maximum coverage of 16,811 square feet, and Lot 2 a maximum coverage allowance of 4,333 square feet. Proposal will not result in new nonconformities.
Hey, and that said 14, because I know the code is 1,500 plus 10%.
I think you're asking about gross floor
Gross
area.
floor. Gross floor, yeah,
right.
the
GFA is
GFA,
different. Amount.
yeah.
The maximum gross floor is calculated as 12% of the lot area plus 1,500 square feet. And the maximum gross floor area allowed by the village if the proposed lot modification is approved would result in a maximum gross floor area of 14,623 square feet and 3,928 square feet for Lot 1 and Lot 2 respectively.
And you're well under that.
Well,
But it should say 10% in there, because the code is 10% plus 1,500 on gross floor area. Is that right?
It is, but I'm wondering if this refers to when the application was filed, which I can't think of. And do we have a number, Pam, when it
it
was?
says May 31st, 2019 is the date of the revised June 3rd, 2019, and this is from Nelson Pope and Boris. But you know what, it's even, it would conform even if you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I know it conforms, I just want to make sure the memo is
Yeah.
to the right code with the village, just so there's no conflict of anything, especially if it was submitted after the change in code.
We'll double check that.
Okay.
May 3rd.
Yeah, because there's plenty of
Yeah,
square
then
feet in there.
May 30 should be the lower number.
It says May 31st, the date of this memo was May 31st, 2019, revised June 3rd, 2019. So obviously, I was just reading from there, that calculation they have
Yeah.
revised.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be no issue with it regardless.
I think that either way, even if you
Yeah.
reduce it 10%, it's substantially,
It's well under.
but it's well under.
It's just, yeah, we just want to make sure it's right.
Oh, no, thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that. You have any questions, other questions?
I don't, Pam? Taylor, anything going on that we need to know about?
We do have the EAF Part 2 and 3 negative declaration, which has not been signed.
Hasn't been approved?
We did submit I think my partners did submit.
Yes, we
a
reviewed the
children.
EAF and we
Okay.
prepared the Part 2 and 3.
I think we need to do those before the public hearing is closed.
Right.
You have to adopt.
Copy told us that last week.
But
I did.
I will ask if anybody in the audience wants to comment on this application. No? So if you would like to give those to us, we will put it on the neg deck. So I have before me the short environmental assessment form, and it's recommended by our consultant that we approve a negative declaration for this. I make the motion to vote on the negative declaration. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of the neg deck?
Aye.
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 Should we, Alan not being here, should I sign it as,
Yes. Yes.
okay. Does that go to you? Thank you. All right, in view of the fact that there's no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And now the same thing. I
Adjourn,
make a
adjourn for all
motion
purposes to the next regular meeting.
to adjourn the Fernandez and 41 Barnhart for all purposes at the request of the applicant until the next regular meeting of the Village Planning Board. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. That's the only two public hearings. We in tennis courts have an application which has been adjourned to August 5th. The Chickamauga LLC, 500 Captain's Neck Lane, so we'll discuss that at the next meeting. Site plans, we have the John Danielson application for 30 Sandfield Place, which has also been adjourned. We have McDonald's USA, 307 North Sea Road. I believe there's a decision in the file.
We have a resolution approving the application as amended. There were minor amendments to the plans and the site configuration. We have received a lighting plan as of today. modifying the one previously submitted in March. So I have, I drafted originally the date for the March plan, but that was updated as of today. That date has been now inserted in the resolution. So a affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the application as amended. I've also noted the neg declaration in the approval. There was a EAF 2 and 3 submitted previously to the file.
I'll make a motion to vote approving the resolution for McDonald's USA LLC. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes 3-0 with 2 not present.
Just a second. Just a second. Down the red side, please.
Just the one copy?
Wait a minute, no, I lied.
There we go.
There you go.
Just the one copy.
Yeah, there's still one, just a bigger one.
Okey dokey. BRL Hampton Road, 630 Hampton Road. There's a note in the agenda that the applicant is requesting adjournment until August 5th. I didn't see a letter, but I'm presuming...
I believe there is a letter in the file, Mr. Chairman. As you know, this application has been now pending since last September, I believe, and the applicant has yet to submit a approved application. I see no real issue with adjourning or approving the applicant's request for an adjournment, but it should be noted that up until now, we have not received a complete application.
Well, Antoinette, if you could make a note of the minutes to that effect. In the meantime, I would make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn Hampton Road LLC until the August 5th meeting of the Village Planning Board. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Lastly, in the subdivision, we have 134 Murray Lane. The applicant is requesting modification to previously approved covenants and restrictions. Mr. Bennett?
So I was here at the work session, and I think that I then received a proposal from Nelson Pope and Voorhees to do a report on the application, which we have no problem with. We sent consent to that, so hopefully that's fine. Just for the, I don't know if you were here, Roy. Did you?
I wasn't at the work
Yeah.
session, no.
This is a subdivision. There are 5 lots on the ocean on this subdivision, and there's a covenant that was imposed back in 1976 as a result of probably something coming out of the Planning Commission that required that of the 3 lots there only be, I'm sorry, of the 5 lots there only be a total of 3 elevated walkways. So my client bought this property, and there are currently 1, 2, 3, 4 elevated walkways. It's supposed to be 3 for 5 to share. So we're actually asking that the board give us relief from the covenant. There was a situation on 88, 76, and 88, 72, and 56, in which the board, it was a similar thing. 3 lots were supposed to share 2 elevated walkways, and the board actually amended that covenant without even the need for a public hearing. But if the board wants to take a more graduated look at this, we're not critical of that. So Nelson and Pope Nelson Pope and Voorhees did have a proposal to study the area. We've consented to that, and I would just ask that they do that. I did want to take the opportunity to share something with the board today, though, hopefully and one of the things they wanted to look at was whether would be sort of an outlier, just this one lot without beach access. So what I did was, it has beach access, and there's nothing preventing anybody from walking across this 200-foot dune. Our idea is that, everybody else has them, even though 2 lots are in violation of the covenant. By the way, we're not violating the covenant. We don't have an elevated beach walkway. We'd like to have the ability to have a separate one and to lift the covenant. But what I did was I took out the tax map today, and I looked at the current aerial photograph. And I didn't want to go through the whole village. I just didn't have the time, to be honest with you. So I went from the easterly end of the village, which I happen to know. Those are the last 2 lots. If you're on Fowler Street, the last 2 lots, when you go down that private road, those 2 lots to the east on the east side of Fowler, those 2 lots are in the village. So I started there, and I went to the lot that is sort of inaccurately called Wildorn Manor. It's actually it's the one right next to it's just one east of the Bathing Corporation. So there are 42 lots. There are 42 lots in that stretch of the beach. I didn't include the 2 lots that are on the west side of Fowler Street. It was that long lot that there's a driveway down to a house that was originally owned by Pete Peterson. There are 2 lots in there that the Peconic Land Trust they own fee title to one, and they have an easement over the other, so they're not developed lots. So I didn't include those, but there are 42 lots in that grab. And my review of the aerial photograph shows that there are 38 elevated beach walkways, 72 and 56, which I will represent to you, I can't tell you by who, but are commonly controlled. They share one access point at 72, because that's the old, it was Burton Browse, then it was Belfer. So those 2 lots sort of run together. And then one of the lots that didn't have access, an access hardened structure, and when I mean like an elevated wooden structure, is a client, and that's in construction. They have a permit for it, they haven't built it. So and then if there weren't elevated walkways, there were worked paths to the beach. So no one's not getting access. We have this covenant. You have to, if you were to be kind enough to relieve it, I think you have to have give us relief from it. You certainly have to have the factual background for it, which is where we are now. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell you that this would be a rare bird without its own elevated walkway. And I think that's the sort of thing that you should encourage, because without it, people will just walk over the dune. Indeed, under the Coastal Erosion Hazard Law, a 4-foot wide elevated walkway is not even a regulated. It's not even a regulated structure under the Coastal Erosion Hazard Law, because the idea is to promote that sort of, keeping it all in one area. But that's all I have to say. I don't have any problem with Nelson Pope had Nelson Pope and Voorhees had a proposal for a study. Under the village code, we have to pay for it. We're fine with that, and I would just ask that the board direct Nelson and Pope to commence this, and Voorhees to commence the study.
So just looking for a little guidance here. It's an odd situation where we're sort of come to have to request, because of the applicant, we've been made aware of violations of covenants by other property owners.
Two things. One, in addressing that issue, I think conservatively approaching this, the board should wait until it receives the report from Nelson Pope and Voorhees. That might say that, I think what happened back in 76, that was 13 years after the storm of 63, which did a substantial amount of damage to the beach. So this was trying to even be more conservative than just a walking pathway or an elevated pathway. They wanted to try and limit the number of those. So upon receipt of the Nelson and study of the Nelson Pope report, they may say that such a walkway like this, under today's theory, is beneficial. If not, in that case, then the other walkways in this subdivision are coinciding with that. In any event, if it turns out that the report is different or warrants it, then the planning board may want to forward the information regarding the possible violation of the other walkways to the building department for the building inspector for his attention. In the meantime,
They've been there for 50 years. Those people might have sort of an argument that it's grandfathered.
well, they may have an argument, but the fact that there's a covenant in the county center is
Yeah.
going to severely limit that argument,
That's a tough
I
one.
would think. And just talking to Taylor, I think the best way to handle the finance of this would be for the village, for Nelson Pope to bill the village through a standard voucher, and then upon receipt of that, the village, obviously confirming payment, then can forward a request for reimbursement to the applicant. That way, there's no direct contact between the applicant and the
Is that acceptable,
Nelson
Mr. Bennett?
Pope for the funding. So
Perfectly fine.
I'll attend to those
Okay.
procedures.
And I appreciate that because I'd appreciate not being the neighborhood snitch if it's no need. There's not a necessity for it.
Well, they just have to look at the video of this.
Right.
Who watches this? The only people who watch it, well, anyway,
It's all right.
I watch it. Sometimes you watch it. Sometimes I come home, someone in the house is watching, and I'm like, would you turn that thing off? I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Are there any idea how long this would take to do this further study?
It does involve some field work, so the main question would just be the timing of fitting that into a
Think
schedule.
it could be done by the next meeting, or does it require more time?
I would hope that it could be done by then, but can,
And
reach out to
I think,
Chick.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, go ahead.
If there's any need for access, just a call to my office, I can just
Sure.
get that done. If Chick or whoever is going to look at it wants access, that's fine. I'll arrange for that.
Thank you.
Well, then we'll hope we'll have it by the next meeting. John, with your agreement, we'll adjourn for all purposes till the next meeting of awaiting that study.
If you would.
Hopefully we get it. If we don't, we'll adjourn till the next meeting. So I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn 134 Murray Lane LLC until the next meeting of the Village Planning Board. Do I have a second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a great 4th of July, everyone.
Thank you, John. You too.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Probably should wait on the minute approvals until you have hopefully a full board.
We will wait on the minute approval since Mr. McFarland is the expert on those. So we have, the next meeting is July 29th. It's a work session. It'll be right here at 5 PM, followed by our public meeting on August 5th at 5:30 PM. Anybody else have anything they need to talk about? I have a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.